You're listening to NorthWoods Church Matters, a podcast of NorthWoods Church in Evansville, Indiana, where we discuss why the local church matters and things that matter to the local church. I'm your host, Matt Higgins. Well, welcome back to the NorthWoods Church Matters podcast. Today we're going to talk about the boys' mission trip to Ireland. And by the boys, Pastor Bobby and Pastor Ryan recently got back from a vision trip to Ireland. And so what is a vision trip?
We went over there with the idea that we wanted to explore, is this an opportunity for us to get involved over here? Are there opportunities for partnership? Are there churches that we can partner with or potential church plants that we could partner with and send people over or resource in other ways? And so really it was just making the trip, looking for where do we see God at work, and is this a way for NorthWoods to be involved?
And I think it's good for people to know this is a part of our process. Like whenever we think about partnering somewhere, we don't just go whole hog on there. We send people out to talk to churches, see where we can partner, and whether it's a wise investment for NorthWoods.
We've done this everywhere. Ecuador, Wyoming, Puerto Rico. Yeah. Everywhere we've gone, we've done a vision trip.
Our family did it before we moved to Evansville. We came up here on a little vision trip to just explore the area and pray and just see if we thought God was leading here. One of our interns this summer that's going to be moving up here, they came up and did a vision trip over the past few months. And so it's not an uncommon thing for churches to do.
And another intern will be here in a week or two.
That's right.
Who's
another
doing
one.
a vision trip.
That's it.
Yeah,
that is exactly right.
It's a wise thing for us to do, to try to figure out, okay, can we partner here? There's always a story with churches and countries that we partner with. It's not like we sit around in the NorthWoods office and have a globe and spin the globe and throw darts at it and you're like, okay, so we're going to go to Bolivia.
Yeah.
Or we're going to go to Ireland. There's a process for this, and there's always a story for this. So how did NorthWoods get involved with missions in Ireland?
First of all, we're open, we're looking, we're thinking. I was in a conversation with Larry Riley, who at the time was the lead pastor for Graceland Baptist Church in New Albany, and was talking with them about what they're doing in missions, what we're doing in missions, and we're looking for new opportunities. They're looking for new opportunities. And he looked over at me and he said, well, would you be interested in going with us to Ireland?
Which is just a depressing, not beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. My first thought is this to play golf? Because I would be very interested. And so I'm like, yeah, I'd be interested in learning more about what you're doing. And he came back and said that they were planning on doing a vision trip. He was going to go over. Then he was going to go over and take pastors. And then if everything went well, their church would start taking mission trips. Well, we were a part of the pastors group of that, and we just simply stayed in contact with Larry, and Larry communicated to us where we needed to fly into. We met with him, and he and his wife and daughter, who is about to become a graduate of Southern Seminary with her master's in theology. That was a wonderful family to hang out with, and they drove us around. We never rented a car. We were just with them the entire time.
Which we were thankful for.
Yes.
Because they drive on the left side of the road. That would have been difficult.
That would mess me up
to
have to do that.
Yeah. And your steering wheel's on the right-hand side.
So lostness looks different in different parts of the world. We have experience with different areas that we've been to in America here. Lostness looks like everybody's got a little bit of the gospel. Everybody knows Bible knowledge, but they're far from the Lord. I mean, in Ecuador, it's different. There's very little Bible knowledge that's there and just a whole lot of lostness. So what does lostness look like in Ireland?
You have to look at Ireland from a political standing when you answer this question. If you're familiar with Ireland at all, you know that there's been turmoil there on the island for a long time. There's this battle, if you will, between Protestants and Catholics that has been going on for a long time. And so when you're thinking about that in terms of lostness, and you said here in America, people may have some form of Bible knowledge here, but they're still lost. I say that's probably true there in Ireland as well, because there's a lot of people that identify with Catholicism, that there's probably going to be some there who have some form of Bible knowledge. Now, being saved, living a life that reflects that they follow Jesus, that's not there. but their culture is closely tied to religion, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But there's for sure lostness. Anywhere you go, there's going to be lostness. When we were getting ready to go, Bobby told me, I assume Larry told Bobby this, Ireland as a whole is the most unreached English-speaking country in the world. In Northern Ireland, 1.5% are evangelical, and in the southern part of the island, it's less than 1%. It's 0.5% is evangelical. And so when you realize that fact and just you see the lostness, and when you walk the streets, you see the lostness, you hear the lostness that's all around you. So there's a big need for an evangelical presence there.
The Catholic presence in the Republic of Ireland is predominant. Protestants are the minority. And so Catholics run the Republic of Ireland, which is 2/3 to 3/4 of the island. Northern Ireland, it's flipped. Northern Ireland is where we were. We were in Belfast. For those people who are listening who remember the 1960s, 70s, 80s, you would remember bombings in this area that were happening between the IRA and was happening between the terrorist groups that were representing the Protestants. And there were terrorist groups representing both sides. In Belfast, the history of the country is found on walls, on murals throughout the city. Many of those walls have turned into what they now call peace walls, and some of those walls have not. Some of those walls still communicate the hatred that those groups have for each other. We would be in cafes talking with people. They would talk about Protestants, but the way they would talk about Protestants is they say, the Protestants. Or they talk about the Catholics, and they say, the Catholics. The closest illustration we could come up with is the civil rights movement here and how people talk about blacks and whites. We met with a lady who is doing ministry with refugees, and she talked about how she came from a mixed marriage. Well, our understanding of a mixed marriage is racial. For them, a mixed marriage is her father was a Catholic, mother was Protestant. And that perspective pervades everything. Because when you're having a conversation with a Catholic in Northern Ireland, knowing that they are the minority, they feel disadvantaged. There's 65,000 people who are Catholics all living together behind a wall in Western Belfast, literally behind walls. And some of them have never left those walls. So you have to help them understand that God loves them in ways that they have never understood. It's a whole new conversation there. And so it isn't a situation where they've never heard the name Jesus. It's not a situation where they don't know what a Bible is. It's not a situation where they don't even believe God's word. It's that they don't understand it.
We take for granted, I think, growing up in America, the amount of religious liberty that we have.
Yeah.
That if someone were to switch over from Catholicism to NorthWoods Church, we wouldn't think that much of it.
That's right.
Here, because of the way that religious liberty has been conceived over the years, and we have appreciation for it. But we're also a country with not a lot of history in comparison to other countries.
Yeah, right.
And you go to Ireland or England or anywhere in Europe, you're talking about thousands of years of history.
Yeah, that's right.
And then you have warring factions, blood that has been spilt over the years between Protestants and Catholics.
Right.
My closest connection to that is my wife had a coworker from Lebanon and asked her one time, would you ever consider becoming a Christian? Are you interested in that? And she said, never, because my people have been killed by Christians and we've killed them. And it was so ingrained in their identity. And I don't think that we have that ingrained in our identity as some other people do. They would never think of switching over from one thing to another.
Right.
If you were to talk to a Catholic over there about becoming evangelical, what do you think their response would be?
Yeah, if you were to just approach somebody on the street and talk to them about becoming an evangelical, it wouldn't be received well.
Yeah.
Right. Because of that history that's there, right?
Yeah.
Culturally, that's just where they are. And so the church, when you think about the vast lostness that's there, you also, on the other hand, you have to think what an opportunity the church has to love their neighbors, to show them the love of Christ, to show them what forgiveness looks like and moving on. I think probably for most that do convert, it's not a quick thing. I think it's probably been relationship building and time spent with evangelical believers, and obviously a work of the Holy Spirit in their life.
Yeah, we met with an IMB missionary who is working in that 65,000 population. Many IMB missionaries have gone before him and failed. What they've learned is that there has to be a long-range, long-term plan of relationship building.
So what is the state of the church, and by the church we mean evangelical church, over there in Ireland right now?
We heard some of the best preaching we have ever heard while we were over there.
True.
Yeah. We were able to connect with the Association of Baptist Churches in Ireland. There's 119 churches over there. They were having annual meetings while we were over there. So it was timed really, really well. But we were able to connect with lots of pastors that are over there. And so we heard good theology while we were over there, really good preaching while we were over there. The state of the church, as far as where their focus is, they value the Word of God over there, and that's a plus. They have biblical literacy over there. This isn't a situation where we feel like if there is a partnership that we'd have to go in and teach them how to read the Bible, go through systematic theology with them, because they have that. If there is a way that we might be able to assist the churches over there in what they're doing is more in lines with what it looks like to reach your neighbor and how to do evangelism and discipleship.
So most of the churches are in Northern Ireland that are evangelical. Certainly of the Baptist churches in Ireland, 3/4 of them are in Northern Ireland. And if you go down the East Coast, if you could imagine this island, down the East Coast, it goes Belfast is in the far north. Then you go down right in the middle of the island, little north of middle, but on the coast still is Dublin, and that's in the Republic of Ireland. And then down at the very bottom, the third largest city is Cork. And so Belfast, up in Northern Ireland, they would have the most evangelical churches. We stayed in an Airbnb where C.S. Lewis grew up.
Oh, cool.
It was. I mean, it was really cool.
That's awesome.
Probably a 4-minute walk from where we were was the C.S. Lewis Square. And they had little statues out of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. It was really a neat place. So we stayed in a Protestant neighborhood is really where we were. And every neighborhood in Belfast is either Protestant or Catholic. We happened to stay in a Protestant neighborhood that was very pro-United Kingdom, which is what Belfast is. Northern Ireland is a part of the United Kingdom. They use the British pound. More evangelical the farther north, less evangelical the further south. And I agree with what Ryan said. I think they have 119 or something like that churches.
What challenges does the church face in Ireland?
This relates to the previous question, but I think that theologically they seem to be good. I think that they have to figure out how to reach their neighbors. Literally, how to love their enemies. Because they have literally been at war with their neighbors next door. And so for the pastors that are leading these churches, many of them are leading people that have had family members that have been shot and killed in the wars that have taken place. And they have those memories. If they were to get up and preach, go and love your neighbor and share the gospel with somebody across the wall, if we hear that message, we may feel fear and trepidation and say, oh, I don't know if I can do that because I'm scared. In that situation, they may have feelings of, they killed my cousin. They killed my uncle. I saw them shoot my grandparents down. From what we could tell in the conversations that we had, and even what those pastors shared with us, there's a challenge in Protestants reaching Catholics, for sure.
I agree with that. I would also say that some of the challenges they have are the same challenges we have. We probably were in 4 or 5 church services in the time that we were there. And in most of those church services, it felt like I walked into the 1980s. And here, when I walk into one of our Southern Baptist churches in Indiana, sometimes I feel like I walk into the 1990s or 2000s because they're behind the times. And they're not reaching younger people. They're not reaching their neighbors. They're not reaching their community, and they're not thinking about it. The only thing that they are thinking about that I think is great is they're thinking about their theology, but they're not thinking about reaching their community. One of the challenges is to help them take their theology and see their theology lived out.
So what we've done in different locations is different. And so in Wyoming, we've done a lot of kids ministry stuff. We've done some outreach stuff. In Ecuador, we've done a lot of door-to-door type of evangelism. Puerto Rico, what we're going to do there looks differently. So what will we potentially be doing in Ireland?
First, we don't want to go over there with an agenda and cram NorthWoods down their throat. We want to go over there and we want to be a blessing to the churches and to the pastors over there and be a benefit where they also see that there's a need. We do feel like there is an opportunity for us to be involved in the future over there. We're still praying through some specific opportunities that we have. We met with a couple of pastors of churches that have been involved in church planting before. They've been sending churches before. And so we're having conversations with NorthWoods and our DNA, with church planting being a focus of our church for so long. How do we come alongside them and help them in that regard? In those situations, it feels like a good fit to partner with churches that have a desire for church planting, and because that is who NorthWoods is. We met with others there who are doing good things, but they don't necessarily line up with who NorthWoods is, right? And so we're praying for them, but we probably won't partner with them in the future. But I think that we for sure see some opportunities for mission partnership.
There is a church plant in the very southern part of the country in Cork. I'll be surprised if we don't help them. That church plant is relatively new. That they were just voted into the association last Saturday.
Wow.
Called Passage
West.
Passage West.
And that's in the Catholic part of the
country. Yes, that's correct.
That's right.
They are wanting to plant again. So this is a church plant wanting to plant again, and they are desiring to have a church planting intern. And so one of the things we would be doing is coming alongside that church plant and helping them have a church planting intern to go reproduce, which is right down the line of who we are. And so what are some of the things that I would see us doing? I can't tell you how many times we met with people who they use different words to describe a VBS. They call it something else.
Club.
Holiday club or something like that. Yeah. It's a VBS. And so basically, I would be shocked if we don't go over and do VBS.
That's fun.
Yeah, it would be.
We would be doing an Irish VBS, doing our stuff, and just taking it to Ireland.
Of course, we're learning that VBS means different things in different countries.
That's true.
In Ecuador, they say VBS. They just mean they're going to get the kids together today, and we're just going to hang out.
Right. Sort of the one day.
Right. Yeah.
There's another potential church planting intern situation that we're also having conversation with that's up by Belfast, which is the northern part of the country up in Northern Ireland. We also may be, one of the things that we've done in Ecuador is we've done some pastor training in Ecuador, but that's been more in the biblical literacy. Like I'm going to be going in June to do some Old Testament survey teaching of pastors in Ecuador. That's not needed in Ireland. But there is a conversation happening about what if 2 or 3 of us on staff went over and we did some training, just practical training, once in Belfast, once in Dublin, and once in Cork, on how do you reach your community or how do you evaluate your church? We do a thing here with our elders. What's working? What's broken? What's missing? What's confused? I did that with one pastor and a napkin. And he said, "Can I have this napkin?" he thought it was gold.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, this is what we do every few months here at NorthWoods. And so they don't need a conversation about Old Testament survey. They just need some practical how-tos to think through.
Let's talk about some of the fun stuff. Did you have haggis?
I attempted to try as many Irish dishes as I could while I was over there.
You have a real shepherd's pie?
I didn't see that anywhere. I didn't see shepherd's pie on the menu. I didn't see haggis on the menu.
Maybe that's Scottish.
No,
That might
That's
be.
probably what it is.
And you might be offensive, confusing the two right now. I don't know. I have
I'm
no
sorry.
idea. I have no idea.
Yeah.
we did see the Higgins name as a name that you can purchase as a last name,
Like a crest.
like a crest,
Yeah.
that is Irish.
I almost bought it for you, but I ran out of money. So, I'm sorry. Next time.
So disclaimer, I did not go to Ireland. So my closest thing to Ireland is I've watched Doctor Who. So that's probably about it. So what did you eat?
I had a couple of Irishy things that I ate, but fish and chips, right?
Yeah, me too.
yeah.
I had that. It was
Chips or
Fries.
French fries is what they are.
good. Think Long John Silver's, but better.
That's right. That's
Mm.
right. I had a meal called a boxty at one point, and it was a potato pancake with some meat on top of it. And as a side, I had chips again with that one.
More
That was-
potatoes.
More potatoes. It was a very potato-y meal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was good.
Lots of starch.
Lots of starch.
Ryan had a lot of potatoes.
I had a ton of potatoes. At one restaurant I went to, so I don't know if this was a restaurant-specific thing or an Irish-specific thing,
I'm waiting on hearing this.
but you remember it once I
I know.
start saying it.
I know.
I ordered fries or chips again, and they put mayonnaise all over the top of it. And I don't mean a little bit of mayonnaise. I mean
Like a jar.
a jar of mayonnaise on top of it. And I tried to scrape it off, and I couldn't. I couldn't eat it.
It made me smile.
It was so much fun. And I like mayonnaise, but I have my limits. So, I mean, it was good food, though.
I'm going to lead you down a path.
Okay.
You also
ready.
had a breakfast.
Yeah. What was that called?
I remember, if you don't,
Thank you. What is it?
the Full Monty,
The Full Monty. Yeah.
which is that is
I've
the
seen
name.
that movie.
That is the name
That's
of
right, that's
an Irish breakfast.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I know some of the things that I can name.
I remember there being tomatoes on there, portobello mushrooms, ham was on there, egg was on there
You're naming the things that I was not going to name.
that I ate. There was something that I tried,
There was blood sausage,
sausage.
blood sausage.
And baked beans.
baked beans.
Baked beans, that's right, baked beans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the traditional English breakfast.
Yeah,
Yeah, there was-
well, they had it. They had it
Yeah.
over there.
Yeah, and so we were there with Johnny Mclaughlin. So in case you listen, hi Johnny. Johnny is pastor in Bangor, Ireland. One of the larger churches, one of the largest, probably a couple of churches in Ireland. Johnny Mclaughlin. Johnny tells a story. I'll quickly say he was a son of a Baptist pastor, but his call into ministry happened around as sort of a jock. His dad asked him to pick up some guys and go golfing, and he picked up 3 pastors to take him golfing, and he picked up Alistair Begg, John MacArthur, and Stephen Lawson. And he had no idea who they were, and he went and played golf with them. And Alistair Begg just challenged him about as he called into the ministry, and his call into the ministry happened soon after that. That was a really cool story.
That's a really neat
That is
story.
really cool. Yeah. Johnny is probably saying, please don't send that pastor that suggested that we eat sheep stomach. Sorry, Johnny.
Bobby, did you eat anything that was really... We went to restaurants that had pizza.
The closest thing that I had, I watched a lot of Belfast YouTube
Mhm.
before I went. One of the things they talked about was in Ireland, because Ireland is an island,
Mhm.
is they talked about their seafood chowder.
Mhm.
And I had their seafood chowder, and how that it's not common and that it's very fresh. The pieces of fish in it are not low-class fish, but they're like salmon fish. I got seafood chowder, and it was the best seafood chowder I've ever had.
Wow.
It was really, really good.
What did y'all see that was fun or interesting?
That C.S. Lewis Square was pretty cool. One day we had a pastor drive us by C.S. Lewis's home that he grew up in. That was a pretty neat landmark to see. We saw a lot of castles. They have lots of old castles
It
scattered.
goes back to what you were talking about. Our country's young,
Yeah.
and then you go to a castle, and they'll say, well, it's 1,500,
Yeah.
1,400.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our
That's not
country-
an old cat.
That's not an old castle.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. We started in 1776.
Yeah.
Babies.
Yeah. Did you talk about Loch Ness with anybody?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I told some folks as they were driving by, I said, would you please take a picture if the Loch Ness pops up out there?
And they rolled their eyes.
They rolled their eyes. That did not go over well.
I'm probably not scoring any more points with the Irish.
This was not received well.
Yeah. Before the next trip, we'll take a cultural sensitivity class.
Right. Don't talk about Loch Ness.
Here are the things to not address.
Yeah.
We took one day, tourist day. If you get on a map and you see Belfast, to the east of Belfast, there's a peninsula. And we drove down that peninsula and took a ferry across the peninsula at the tip of it. And it was very pretty. When you cross over the ferry, you went to a little town called Downpatrick. And that's where St. Patrick, for St. Patrick's Day, that's where St. Patrick is buried.
Oh, wow.
And that was cool. He died in 428, I want to say, that he was the first person that brought Christianity to the island. That was a really neat place. So that was fun. If you've seen any pictures that at least I've posted on Facebook, that all came from really that day.
If somebody's interested in serving in Ireland, what should they do?
If you're looking for a long-term appointment, maybe, the IMB is there. Their presence is there. Whether they're actively trying to fill slots there or not, I don't know. But there is an IMB presence that is there in Ireland. I would say go ahead and start praying about it. If you're interested in any international missions trip, go ahead and get your passport. I think you can do things in preparation for that if you have a desire to do something like that in order to be ready for that. But let us know. And I say that in the back of my mind. I've had probably 35 people here at church reach out to me over the last month and say, hey, when you go to Ireland, I want to go back. When you go to Ireland, I want to go back. And so I'm grateful for that. There seems to be a lot of excitement here at NorthWoods about a potential partnership there. And so just be listening and be praying. And when we start announcing some stuff, go ahead and let us know that you're interested in going.
Sounds good. All right. I will stop offending the Irish. And so call it quits with this.
Your brogue is wonderful, too, by the way.
Top of the morning. Did anybody say top of the morning to you?
Not that, but we had other things.
I had a lot of no worries.
No worries.
No worries.
Are they
No
Jamaican?
worries was a really big statement.
Cheers.
Cheers.
A lot of beer drinking?
There was a lot of beer drinking, not by me.
Not by your not by your pastors. Your pastors.
Ryan drank all of it with his English breakfast.
Yeah.
You know,
Culturally,
culturally,
that's
that's
part
a
of the culture.
big deal.
Yeah.
That's
So
a big
there are
deal.
lots of bars and pubs.
Yeah. Some of the best food is served in pubs.
Yeah. I'll see you soon.
See you.
Thanks for tuning in to the NorthWoods Church Matters podcast. If you'd like to find out more about NorthWoods Church, you can visit us at our website, www.northwoodschurch.org. Again, that's www.northwoodschurch.org.